Hey guys, welcome to the Naked Truth here. Today is going to be an awesome conversation. I have with me Ta'lor Hawkins, who is a social worker in the state of California, and I have L. Scott, the member of the WOW Naked Truth platform. So we are here going to bring you some good goodies. We're going to just be kicking it, speaking on what's going on in today's society, what's been going on with us, and what's been going on social media. So Ta'lor, give us a little bit more info about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm an associate clinical social worker in California and LA County, and I'm a life coach, but I'm a business owner as well. So I do a little bit of everything, but right now I'm working on getting my 3,000 hours, and it's been a journey with that. I graduated in May, so COVID graduation, whoop whoop.
I know that's right.
Yeah, so just really learning, I've had my business for about 3 years, but I really haven't been able to focus on it because I was in school. And so now I'm taking these last few months just to really focus on my business and to go from there. So I'm excited to have this conversation too.
Oh, awesome. And L, can you hear us? Are we still having a little bit of technical difficulties here?
I can hear you in and out. I am having a little bit of a technical difficulty, but I will maintain the integrity as best as possible. Okay.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Wow.
So let's go ahead and jump right into this convo. And I can hear you fine, L. It's a little lag, but I can still hear you. First off, guys, I don't know
Wonderful.
if you guys seen it, but I seen the movie Cuties like a week or two ago, and I saw all the controversial people speaking on the negative part. It was really, really out there to the point that it's to the government level where they're trying to, I don't know if they extracting it from Netflix or either trying to cancel Netflix. So Ta'lor, did you get to see the movie?
Yes, I did. There are so many good controversies in it.
It really is.
Yeah, I'm ready to talk about it for sure.
It really is.
You saw it, Al. So what did you think of it?
I've seen a large portion of it. I saw a large portion of it right before our live meeting. Woo, it's a lot for sure. It had me like I just continuously covered my mouth because I was too surprised by what I saw. But yet it was very predictable to see the one who was the most quietest and most reserved. She became like the Michael Jordan of 11-year-old hotness. So she began to teach the other young ladies what needed to be done. It was just out of control.
Awesome. Now,
I know people, girls. I'm grateful.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to tell you, I think a lot of people didn't want to see it. I want to say that a lot of the controversy comes from 95% of the people who heard about the movie and basically wanted to identify it as sexualizing children. And that right there is the part where I guess the controversy is coming in from, because they're thinking that the children are being sexualized in camera. So what are your thoughts about it, Ta'lor?
Yeah, so I've had this conversation with so many people. And honestly, I think it's a movie to show awareness of some of the things that are going on in today's world. I actually liked it because, well, first of all, I like controversy. So I'm like, you know what? You were able to see different realities within this little girl's life. And I know the director did mention that this was her life story. And so you got to see her perspective of it. I personally, it was hard to watch on some, certain areas. It was hard to watch for sure. But then it reminded me of how many girls go through this at such a young age. And for example, like my mother was like, "You used to do this. This is something that you picked up." And I was like, "What?" And she would tell me like, it happens. It's just you didn't have the tools to really talk it out or know like what you were doing and what the consequences of this were. So I think it's important for us to key in not necessarily like the twerking, the girls twerking, but what is it trying to say? What is the story trying to say?
Right. And I think the same thing. I honestly think social media had a lot to do with that young lady and the way that she transitioned to from, what the beginning of the movie identified her as being Islamic young lady, and she basically conformed herself to what she thought these other girls was doing, because when she went to this new school, these other girls was hip, they was popular, they were just doing things that she probably was never capable or never seen being done before. It's a different type of culture. And the dancing, to me, it was very provocative, but I have to put a but in there. What is different from what we're doing today in society? That's a replica of what is being done in today's society. What do you guys think?
I'm gonna let you go first, Elle.
Okay. I don't know. It has its positive and its negative. It really does stop you to think about it. What drove this young girl, a strong culture of an African descent, who covered themselves, prayed, and did the things that were of their culture, and what drove her to turn that way. It wasn't only just the issue that was going on within her mom, it was her identifying who she was. She was trying to find an identity of herself. And I find a lot of that with young ladies out here now. They feel that social media is their guide, opposed to the parent being the guide, or, making just good choices. I also realized that a lot of times young girls, they grab so much, and like this story shows, okay, she went through the motions, and then at the end it looked like she kind of wanted to transform back into that innocent young lady. But let's talk about the reality of it all. How many young girls would do it within a 6-month span and be like, okay, I want to be 12 again? Usually they find out, after some trials and errors, issues that they have to go through, just to understand this is not really the life they want to live. So.
Right, right. Taylor?
No, I definitely agree. I think it's so multifaceted and there's so many issues that are being put out there. I definitely have to agree in the sense of like her parents and how, that can affect a child, but also being an immigrant and how that would affect a child, particularly a child of color. And so it's just, you get to see so many different dynamics. And the father, wanting to seek love from her dad and trying to fit in, and it's a lot. It's a lot for a little girl, and then not having that guidance through the culture of, I believe it was Senegal, but the Muslim culture, and then trying to be a woman, like their definition of a woman is different too. So you get to see her dancing and that definition of a woman, and then you get to see the definition in the culture aspect and how those two conflict. So that's conflicting for what, an 11-year-old. And the parent, the mom wasn't there, she was trying to fit in to her, what it meant to be a woman for her in the culture, but she's neglecting emotionally, mentally her child at the same time, because she's also trying to figure out, because the situation between the dad and her, and that's hard
Right.
for a woman. So there's so many different dynamics that are popping up in this movie, but it's all good stuff to talk about.
I know. Let me tell you, before I saw the movie, I saw the comments. So that's what led me to want to see the movie. And I'm like, little girls twerking, that was, I want to say 5.3 seconds of the movie of you literally seeing them dance. And it was not about them dancing. It was about her understanding and coming into her, I guess, preteen, learning, what it is to take to get the attention and how to fit in and how to do all of these things. What was more of the point that I got out of it more than the dancing. And if people want to complain about the girls dancing, we have other shows that I have yet to see so much controversy being made up of. We have, what is it, the dancing dolls or what have you, and we have toddlers and tiaras, and there's so many other shows that if you want to identify them to being sexualizing children, let's go from the beginning if that's the case. But this particular movie, it brings awareness, and for people to take it all the way to Congress to get it banned, I find it to be a little bit appalling, because this was not only a movie created to bring awareness, but this was the director's life. This is her story, and people's like, oh, the cameraman focused too long on their private parts and their butts and this and other. I think, looking at the people who saying that, what are you looking at? Why are you worrying about the time frame and not the concept of the movie? I'm not saying that it's okay or what have you, but it's like you watch it just to obtain information to be against somebody's life and true story. And that might not even only be her true story. That's a lot of girls' true story. How many of you guys literally at the age 12, 11, 12, I want to say 11 to 15, walked out of your house with a My Little Pony t-shirt but went to school and changed your clothes? I'll wait. So, this is just bringing reality to everybody. And with social media right now, this is something that we need to be aware of. These girls were seeking attention. And now the worst part about it is they seek the attention that social media is identifying to be, or glorifying to be, sexy, to be cute, or be pretty. You got some girls starving themselves because they feel to get that attention, you got to be skinny. You got some girls wearing clothes tight enough to they can't breathe, wearing a size 0 when they should be a 4 or 5, because they see it on social media or the movies or the music or the videos. It's everything around us. And being that the Pandora box is open, I personally believe that what it needs to what it's telling us is, talk to your kids. Tell them the right from wrong. That's what that movie is bringing about, awareness for us to talk to our kids and say, listen, this is what's out here. I know you're going to wear the short mini skirts to school. I've seen all the girls wearing them. You want to be a part of the crowd? Go ahead, by any means. And also, praise your child for being different. Not saying to go out there and buy it because they are wearing it, but if that's what your child is experiencing, don't stop them from learning the experience of life, is basically what I would put out there. What do you guys think about that part?
I think when regards to stuff like this, because then that would open the door to like having sex conversations. And if a guy's looking at you, you're going into certain dynamics and topics that a lot of people don't like to even talk about, especially within the Black community. And so it's kind of like, now we have to start recognizing that it's important to have these conversations and not to think of it as a taboo. It's okay for a woman to, be sexy, but it's not okay for a little girl to be introduced to some of that stuff. So like, how do we balance being okay with some of these and having some of these conversations? My mom was talking to me about sex since I was little. She adapted it to my age. Or my parents adapted it to my age. So when I was younger, we had to talk about body parts. We weren't calling them, oh, that's the tinkle box, whatever the heck. We were saying that's your
Right.
vagina, you pee out of it. Those are your boobs. We were calling it what it was. So I think also not being afraid to have those conversations. We need to have the conversations to let them know these are the things out there. And people are
Right.
there might be a big bad man that wants to touch your vagina. And you need to know that unfortunately, 9, that's your vagina. And he was trying to touch you there. You know what I'm saying? So we have to have those conversations to help our kids navigate this world. I'm not a mother. I'm not planning on being a mother anytime soon, but I have worked with a lot of moms, and that's one of the hardest things that they struggle with is how do I introduce certain things in this world to my children? And I'm trying to be, say it in the right way and not hurt them and trying to teach them. So it's definitely like a delicate balance, and we have to as a society be okay with that, and we have to stop being scared of taboo things. It's not taboo things. These are our bodies. Women
Right.
especially own their bodies. They have to understand their bodies. And still today, it's hard for people to know certain things. Let's talk about orgasms. Many women don't know that. Many women haven't had an orgasm. Why aren't we talking about our bodies? It's kind of what
I
it
agree.
is.
What you say? L, your speaker's on. You're muted. L.
Uh-oh.
But I also want to say that I agree with having that conversation. And a lot of times, like you said, it's hard to have those conversations. So the best part of having those conversations would come with movies like that. Sit down and watch that movie with your child or children and see how they view it and have a conversation regarding it. I personally believe that if you have it early, it's not telling them to go out and have sex, is making them aware of the different stages, like you stated, the different stages in understanding what it is that they're going through. Because at 11, in that movie, the girls, they didn't have butts and all of these things, and they didn't have their breasts. They wasn't really developed, but they knew that that they could get away with things by utilizing sexual attention, like when they was in the was it the roller skating, wherever they was located, they was at, and they was there illegally, and they started like using their sexuality to get away from doing a crime. That right there is wrong. If they was taught that from their parents that was wrong, they wouldn't, not to say that they wouldn't have done it, but it would have been probably approached differently. You see, so when they utilize that sexual content because they seen it on social media, they're going to use it incorrectly if we as parents don't teach them how to do it properly.
Right.
Women need to bring up these conversations like, what are you doing today on this platform? This is true. This is true. I agree with that. Elle, what's your 2 cents?
I'm back. Oh my gosh. So I missed a big part of what you guys are speaking on, trying to figure out what's going on with me and my connection. So my apologies for that. What was the question, Casey? Let me ask you that.
Well, we were speaking on, identifying and talking to our young ladies, and I'm not going to exclude the men. We need to talk about our sexuality and sex with our children at a young age. Be presented to them already anyway on social media. Like I said, that Pandora box is open. Now it's up to us to talk to them, and we can't wait like, our parents probably would say at 15, 16 to have that conversation, because they already seen it. They have already probably experienced something, and if we wait till we think the right time, social media is going to teach them, and they might teach them incorrectly. We were saying that one of the incidents that took place on them in the movie was the young girls was using their sexuality as a weapon towards the security guard for whatever. I think they was at some kind of playground or club or something that they were supposed to pay to get into, and they basically used their sexuality and was going to claim that he tried to touch them, and if that lesson was honestly taught, how to not how to utilize your sexuality, but not to take advantage of it, some of those things might not have took place.
Mm-hmm.
But that was their interpretation of
Agreed.
it. So what are your thoughts on having those talks at an early age?
I absolutely agree with you, Taylor. We need to have conversation with our kids early on and continue to have those conversations. Make that a natural setting in your household when you have conversations about sexuality. I have 3 boys, and I am a single mom, so I have to have that conversation with 3 boys, and it can be uncomfortable, not for me, because they're hearing it from me opposed to a man, who will give them a male's perspective or opinion. However, naming those body parts is very important. Understanding what will face if, as a young what could cause, what can happen at the end of the day behind charges being brought against you, just being impressionable in any manner. I'm a woman who believes that we still should raise our neighborhood, our community. I don't think it should just be a mom's situation or a dad's situation. I think that, everybody needs a village wrapped around them. Of course, it's going to give the foundation of what they need to. But as a woman, see a young girl out of pocket, so to say, sometimes just the way, it's not what you say, is how you say it, right? So if you see something that doesn't look good, you of course would address it. So I don't have, like I said, any girls, but I will address a young lady if it just doesn't seem correct to me. Because my thought is, if you do it now at 11, what do you have to look forward to at 16? And what do you have to look forward to at 18? And what do you have to look forward to at 20? So you kind of jump straight to the shooting of 21 at 11 years old, and then you get lost in the middle of all of that, right? So nothing good will come out of that because you're kind of confused as to where do you belong, especially if you take away your innocence at such an early age.
Right. Somebody brought up the incident with the condom, and that to me that did show their innocence, but it also showed their curiosity. Mm-hmm. That curiosity, goes a long way,
curiosity
and that's
why they're strong.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I honestly think that with curiosity, those curiosity questions, we can answer those at home. And to piggyback on what you were saying, Elle, as far as the village, yes, it does take a village. And now with social media, that village got to be extra big. It's not only the people on the block, on the corners, and in your neighborhood. That village got to be everybody, like eyes on social network and eyes on Instagram, eyes everywhere. Because when Facebook first came about, I was that auntie. I was the one like, why are you taking pictures on the sink with your drawers on? Take that down. It got to the point my kids didn't even want social media. They was like, oh no. She is policing everybody. But that's what I felt like. I was like, are you kidding me? You put some clothes on. Like, it was, to me, I felt like that was my part on helping people with their kids. Because if let's say my cousin, if she wasn't on Facebook, she wouldn't know what her child is doing. And her child, knowing that she's not on Facebook, gave her the opportunity to do things that she know is not acceptable. So it takes a village. And I personally, at the age of 11, I'm going to say this, and I might have been wrong, but my kids was not able to have social media access until they were, I think it was 15, 16 years of age. and they was behind everybody else because everybody else was already fast with the emojis and they was fast with the acronyms and all of that. And my kids basically they had to download a book. Like what is it? IDK? I don't know. I didn't know what that was because I wasn't a part of all of that, but I didn't allow my kids to be on that platform because I wanted them to be ready for that platform. So I taught them how to be ready and how to be on social media. I think it should be a class. I said this before in another sitting, but I think there should be a class on how to be on social network.
Hmm.
What do you think?
That would be different. I mean, so like I remember the razors and the blueberry. What is the blueberry? Whatever that phone was. But so because I didn't really get a phone until 12, and then I think everything started really like getting into the emojis and stuff later on. But honestly, it's never social media wasn't an issue. I think because my mom worked with like sexual abuse and I started getting into some of that stuff later on in my own like experience and career wise. So I was able to kind of just I already had a lot of that knowledge going in. And so if something didn't feel right, I was like, hey mom, and I would go talk to her. But that's not everybody.
Right.
And so I think really what it comes down is parents talk to like it. I'm until I have a kid, I'm not gonna understand fully. But
Right.
I do know that like as a child, that felt like I could go to my mom for anything or my dad. It was just like I felt safe. Like I felt like I wasn't gonna be judged. They weren't gonna just go off because they were scared. So there was an emotional regulation on their part that I was like, all right, I'm cool, I can go. And that was really what it came down to as far as me wanting to tell them like, hey, this is what's going on. Because even as a kid, something's not right. Like just you
Right.
do know. You have that gut feeling. It's just, immaturity, development, all different type of things that get in the way of that. But I really think it comes down
And
to
do
like,
you feel safe enough to open up?
yeah, and do you feel safe enough? Is the home environment something that where you feel safe? And I think that goes into how the society really like we don't prepare ourselves enough. And it's not a
Right.
conducive environment for let's be like families, to be honest. I mean, why do we have homeless people when it's like food, water, shelter? Those are the top things to
Mm.
stop most of the stuff that's going on today. Like, why aren't we helping people? Why aren't we, I like that, how you said the community. And I remember my dad's always told me how Mrs. Smith whooped my butt when my grandma you know? So like I didn't
That's
grow up.
right. Yes.
Yeah, I didn't have that because we don't even talk to our neighbors. Like, I mean, I have two families that next door, a black family.
Right.
They're like checking in, making sure we're good, just in case, or they'll know if my parents are away. Hey, just in case I need you. But that's one family out of a whole block. Like, why
Right.
aren't we protecting ourselves? Why aren't we protecting our kids? Why aren't we
Right.
ourselves better? So I think it definitely goes down to how is society on top of the family dynamic, but really society. How can we do better? And there's so many issues with that, but yeah.
No, I definitely get it, and I
Absolutely.
definitely. Mm-hmm. Go, El.
I think it's a lot of yeah, I think it's a lot of distractions, parents. Parents can't even pour 100% to their children because they're too busy trying to get to the next level, push forth in their career, pursue the things that they're trying to do to make their home life better. So they can't even provide 100% into their children. That home work-life balance, they speak about it in corporate America, they speak about it in jobs, but it's not factual unless you make it factual, right? You have to
Right.
literally snatch it and make that commitment to yourself, your children, to your home, as well as balance out for your job. Now, how good is that? The calculation just doesn't add up. You really look at it, but you have to take that time and guarantee at least twice a week you have a family of the mind, and continuous conversation. You can catch it in the middle of just a walk by, and they're just walking by on their way out the door. You can stop them, hey, what you doing? How you doing? And I don't think that's happening anymore. We don't stop as parents long enough to find out what's truly going on in our kids' mind. What are you thinking about? Okay.
Right.
I'm always at home with my boys. And when we're home, I'm working, they're doing school. I'm frustrated sometimes, they're frustrated sometimes, but then we find a common ground to have real conversation. That's what's missing. Everybody's kind of too busy in their own home to stop long enough to have those kind of conversations. And I think that's the breakdown. And then to know that your kid is free, you're like, okay, scoot away. I need to do what I need to do. And they take their phone. And now it's not only social media, but they have so much to go to as far as internet surfing. And with internet surfing, as you saw with the young lady, with the young girl, she learns how to, clap booties and, put the finger in the teeth and, all of those sexy images were found not through, so it was social media, but surfing, and there was no one to redirect her because her mother had her to take care of her two little brothers. If you notice how things, she was pretty much left alone to handle things as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And she was okay with it until she realized there was another side of life to look at.
Right.
And that curiosity peaked at 11 years old when it would, and then you turn around and the cycle happens. Luckily, she was able to come back and get herself in order. How about those young ladies who cannot find back? And so they're like, yes, I agree. So, how do you come back from that? How do we come back from that? Even if they're there right now, how do you pull them back in? That's really, I think, the main question.
And that's why I say it's the hard part, because when Pandora boxes open with all of this at their fingertips, it's hard to control it. Like I said, I prevented my children from having the pages until they was at a certain age. You can't do that now because honestly, you can, if they have a phone, they can do it. You don't have that, when I was raising my kids, everybody didn't have that access. We had one computer in the house, and that computer stayed in the living room. Phones, it was not even, it was like the flip phones. It was not accessible. We have we're walking around with computers in our pockets. They always put the disclaimer that their child, there's an age bracket, and are you of this age? A child is going to lie. They will lie as if it is. I lied. I know my kids will lie if they sit there and say, "Oh, if I could get past this, I just got to say that I'm 18." Of course, that they got to be other ways that as parents we can kind of manage it, because you can't control it anymore. It's all about managing and having those conversations and allowing yourself to be open to change. That's another thing. I believe that there's so many parents that want to parent in the way that they was parented, that they're not acknowledging that change took place in the process. 10 years ago, and my kids was in their teens 10 years ago, things were different than they are now. 10 years before that, 20 years ago, there is. So how is it that you still want to hold on to your grandma way of raising you when they got cable, that they got things that are accessible to make them more knowledgeable? I want to say they're smarter. I want to say that they have they grow up faster now. So I'm not saying that what the children in that film were doing was good or bad. I think it was an experience. And if you dislike it, then you need to change. That's a part of society today. We as older people need to change, not our view on it, but change how we can help change that. Because that right there is a culture now. Like I was saying,
I like it, Kate, because I did a protest for the Black Lives Matter back in like June, and we had a Black Panther on there, and he said something to this day that I really respect, and he said there's a difference between an older and an elder. There aren't too many elders. There's a lot of olders, and
Right.
he said we have to pass the torch, and we have to the change that is happening. I said, wow, like that's so right. Like I don't know too many elders. I don't. I cannot
Right.
because there's so many. I'm older. I know what I'm talking about. Blah blah blah. No, we all don't know what we're talking about at the end of the day, to some degree.
Right.
There's something that we have to learn, and even when we look at how even professionals. Yes, I'm a social worker. I still don't know how to deal with everything. I'm not a.
Right.
I don't know everything in the world. I can't claim that I know everything in the world because then that's going to keep me stagnant in my learning. And it doesn't matter whether you're a social worker, whether you're a therapist or somebody working at the bank, whatever it is, we're all learning, and we have to be okay with our like sometimes our egos get in the way. Like, oh, I know everything. These kids. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, the one thing that I really respect about my parents was that they, no matter what, even if I did something wrong, they would teach me through that. Because, like I think somebody said, they will lie. They will lie. Kids will lie. Expect that from them. Expect that there might be a few times where you have to tell them, like, why'd you lie? Okay, let's walk through it. Let's walk through it. What do we need to do better in this? Let's think about it. Have them give them that what do you call it? Give them that chance to figure it out for themselves. Because they know. You don't have to
Right.
beat. What's the point of whooping them? Did you like getting whooped? Did that help?
and honestly,
I got mad when I got
I'm gonna
whooped.
tell you, our generation, we would say, you know what? It's worth sneaking out, going to the party, and getting a beating. That's it. Some kids adapt to it. We like, okay,
That's right.
I'm gonna go to the party. I'm gonna enjoy myself because I know
I'm gonna get in
get
trouble
my
anyway.
butt. Exactly. So you might as well enjoy it. So that was like teaching a lesson. That's just a saying, okay, I know what the consequences is going to be. I'm going to deal with the consequences. But the lesson was not learned from those consequences. Yes, I had my back, my butt was sore, right? But I didn't learn what was the lesson, that I didn't follow your rules and regulations. No, that should not have been the lesson. The lesson should have been, we could have had a conversation. Why do you want to go to this party so bad? What's at this party? Those type of conversations is what we need to have with our kids now, because if we don't have those conversations, we're not going to understand their way of thinking. And if we don't understand their way of thinking, we're not going to understand their reality. Our reality is going to be totally different from theirs because we grew up in a different time. So it's all about interpretation. We can't interpret that they're going to learn the lessons that we learned because we got beat. Our lesson was, how many times I'm going to get beat for the same thing? I'm going to sneak out better next time. I'm learning differently. I'm not going to get the same beating that I get last time. I'm going to figure out, I'm going to wait till they go to sleep and jump out the window. I ain't going through the door. They heard it through the door.
It's going to be worse.
Right. So we learned how to be strategic.
Oh, God.
But if they would have sat down and said, A, B, and C, D, and then say, okay, you know what? You made a valid point. You could go to the party. Or that's stupid. Not that, it's stupid, but I don't see why is it relevant. So it's a conversation, starting the adult conversation with children at an early age, of letting them explain to you what they're experiencing, why they want to do things, and you digest it. No, don't just listen to them, digest it, because times have changed. Times have changed. I mean, we literally cannot, and I say this with the strongest, cannot force our children to experience life the way that we experienced it. We cannot, because now we have the cameras everywhere, social media. I think, honestly, socialism is pretty much out the door. If it's not through a cell phone or, social media, they don't even know how to have conversations really. And that's our fault as well, because we're in the same household with these young adults and young children, and we're not communicating with them in a conversation manner.
And that goes into dating too, because sometimes I'll be like, man, y'all can't hold conversations. Like, I need a brother. Like, come on.
Oh, the dating world, forget about it. I mean, the conversation is,
But we as
everybody
parents,
wants
we have
You froze again. What you say, Al?
No, I was saying, what we need to emphasize on is not trying to be our kid's best friend, because if you end up being your kid's best friend, they're going to lie to you. They're going to manipulate the situation. And because you're having this great conversation and dialogue, sometimes it can hurt you more than help you. So you got to always, it's like a fine line by being a mom to your child's friend. I'm going to be your mother before I'm anything else. And I can't accept everything that you do as wrong just because I want to please you. I'm not that. My job is not to please you. My job is to guide you in a space. And a lot of parents, I'm finding, are wanting to be more of their kid's best friend or accepting to their kids. No, your kid needs to accept what your parenting skill is, or accept your rules and regulations of your household, and not manipulate it by all types of ways. They can manipulate it in way of making you feel guilty, that you're not giving them enough or haven't given them enough, or anything to that manner. So we have to really pay attention to that thin line that can be shaded away really easy. Like, okay, my kid is doing exactly what I want to. And how do you know factually? Because you take every word they say and you like, okay, what she said is actual. You got to be sure of that. You have to investigate that. You have to ask questions. And that's where the fine line is.
That is true. I'm gonna tell you honestly.
Sorry.
There is no kids. No, you're fine. No kid. You can sit here and say my kid won't do that. I can tell you over and over again. I tell parents all the time. You don't know what your child would do without you, with out of your sight. When people tell you your kid is a bully, you don't want to accept it. Why not? Why would your kid not be a bully? Stop looking at what your kid's capable of doing as a reflection of you, because right now you're not the only one raising your kid. You got friends, you got
That's right.
Social media, you got a lot of other things raising your child with you. Now, for you to enforce your morals, values, and integrity into your children, that's a part of those conversations that need to be had. There is no child that I believe that is so out there perfect that they're not going to do something, because that's what they learn from. They learn from, when you be a bully and then come home with a black eye. What happened? Girl hit your eye. What you do? Those are the conversations. I didn't do nothing. You had to do something. Somebody ain't gonna come and just hit you in the eye. Conversate. My mother used to have those conversations all the time with us, and we'd be like, "But they did. Okay, she go to school, find out something else happened, and we didn't tell the true story. Guess what? You get another beating when you get home, because now you done made her look like a fool coming up to the school
when you get home."
I was trying to level that a little bit.
It's like right there.
You get the point, though. You know what I'm saying? Your child is not perfect. As much as we would like for our children to be perfect, they are not perfect. And to teach them is to be in conversation with them, not to tell them what to do, but to converse with them on how to do it and how to do it well. Because we need people in this world to be empathetic, caring. We need them to understand each other along with adults. The disrespect with adults that I have seen in my last 10 years, I swear, it's up to here. To adults.
Like
Videos, they capture it on videos and everything.
I think that definitely goes into like healthy relationships and health, like parenting skills too. Because when you look at it, a lot of the, if you just do community, like mental health, I'll throw that out there. A lot of there's traumas, there's stuff there that people don't touch because it's ingrained in like generations and
Yeah. Oh, that's one of my favorite topics is generational trauma.
And then that's behavior.
Yes, I love that topic.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, like it's kind of it's a hard conversation to have, and how do we change that? And it really does start with like we got to educate ourselves, and then like we've kind of talked about, there's so many different things going on in this world that people aren't living, they're working to survive. And if you're working in a survival mindset, you don't care about Bobby who needs anything else but shelter, clothes, and food. You don't got time for the emotional, mental health, and the spiritual, physical. You don't have time for that because you're not even in a mindset to do that on your own. So how can you teach your child to do that at the same time? And we have so many people who are struggling with that, and then we have to pick up the pieces because, the government, let's talk, go in there, they're not helping out either. So it's like, it's kind of like a win-lose-win situation. We're all kind of losing if we're all not winning. So
it really is. It really is.
I personally believe that
you have to make yourself breathe.
Yeah. Well, I think like with us doing things like this, bringing it to the reality of it and actually opening our doors, because on our platform, we do have a mentor program that we have over 400 members, and not one person signed up for mentorship or to be a mentor. And that's disturbing because we know that we need that type of help, but we're not seeking it. It's like we're utilizing it as a crutch. And if we take away that crutch, are we capable of walking? You'll never know until you utilize, you learn from the crutch, use the excuses as the crutch, if that makes any sense. We put ourselves out there, and we're not seeing that the help is out there. So many people worry about how it's viewed and how other people look at them instead of actually seeking help for your own happiness. You can't get over generational trauma unless you literally talk it out with someone. You can't fix yourself. People have that problem where when it's a problem within their household, oh, I can fix it. I don't need to seek counseling. If you can fix yourself, you wouldn't be broken, because you would know when you was broken to prevent being broken. A lot of times, like I said, with the generational trauma, half the time we don't even realize that we're actually going through something that has gone down generations and generations because, again, lack of conversation in the family. Who knew that Uncle so-and-so, touched mom, or great uncle so-and-so touched my aunt, or, so it passes down. It's a generational trauma. And then you don't want to speak it over with anybody else because of your ego. You don't want the conversation to go outside. You worry about how people view not only you or your children, but the family or the uncle that did all the touching. We're protecting the wrong ones. We're not helping the next generation to come that's coming up behind us by not speaking and talking about these taboos that we have, especially in the Black homes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
About the African American community or Black American community. Is that, a lot of people like to say like slavery, was 400 years ago and yada, yada, this and da, 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 that. And it's like, but do you know that some of that stuff you can still pinpoint today? Just in the sense, like, especially with Black women and protecting their child, you'll see a white child or, kind of do their own thing. Woo, I can hit this over, I can pull this, I can do whatever I want. A Black child, get your ass over here. What you doing? Da, 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 and that's a thing. But that's meant to, there's certain mindset that you have to be aware of as a Black woman and your child. And even with my niece, like I have a little niece and a little nephew, cousin. He's a cousin that I'm like his prima tia, but his cousin aunt. So like both of them, I'm like, okay, come on. Like, come on. And I don't even recognize how to do it sometimes, but it's because of, how we have had to adapt in today's world. And so I think people really, if a therapist, I always say, if you choose to go therapy and go that route, you have to make sure that that therapist is going to therapy. I can't help any of
Mm-hmm.
my clients if I'm not in therapy. Just like, somebody else doing something else. They can't help you if they or they haven't experienced it fully to some degree, depending on what it is. So I think it's definitely important for us to really just try to unlearn these things that have unfortunately affected us, and a lot of us don't even want to like acknowledge that it's affected us because it's just so
Right.
ingrained in our communities. And so I think awareness is number one. Like we have to just be aware. We have to help each other out.
And I agree with
Absolutely.
I agree. I definitely agree. Now, I see we're getting closer to our ending point, and I just wanted to kind of throw in something that I saw earlier this week. Since we just kicking it, did y'all see the Laura Laughlin? Of course, everybody knows she's going to jail. She got 2 months, and I saw a post the other day, which I cannot believe that I literally had to do the research, that she gets to choose what prison she goes to. Now, what kind of anybody? I
Congratulations.
hear cricket. I would like to go to the
You
Waldorf,
got
please, for
connections.
2 months.
Right.
I personally,
Happens all the time.
Oh,
right,
yeah.
a crime committed, she should go to the local or whatever the nearest women's correctional facility. I do not believe that people should have a choice if they did a crime. The whole point of being in a correctional facility is to correct the crime. You don't get to choose your correctional facility. People don't get to choose to live in the projects. People don't get to choose to be homeless. How do you get to choose where you're going to learn not to be a criminal anymore? What are your thoughts? Just give me your thoughts.
Privilege. Privilege. That's what that's about. Because you
Privilege
said
at its finest.
it was two
Yes.
white women. I don't remember who
Yes.
this was. 2 white women. And they both had like a similar crime. I think it was about school. They had did something with their child's school a while back. I don't remember who it was. And then there was a black woman who just helped her child. Like, I think it was just where they
She
were.
used somebody else's address.
Using
Yeah.
a grandparent's address.
And she gets, man, that made me so mad. That made me so mad.
And that's
Privilege
right there is what
finest.
we're marking for today is equality. You can't say that we are all equal when situations like this comes into, come into play, and those options are given to the ones that have privilege and not the ones that doesn't. Where's the equality at? So you're telling me that the law comes in at privilege. So after making a certain amount of money, I get away with doing things that people who don't make that amount of money, And honestly, the crime reason why people do a lot
I don't
of
think
crime
it's
is because
money. It's not only money. It's not only having money plus being the right race, at the right time in front of the right judge. And that's what it all boils down to, unfortunately. So now what?
Exactly, in which to me is appalling, because if we're all following or supposed to be under the same constitution, that's the reason why we are out marching and we're protesting, and because we need that equality. We work just as hard as everyone else, and I think people of color needs to be treated equally. Speaking of equality, Notorious RBG passed last night, ladies, and when I tell you, that judge, she literally made a mark on in America for women's rights. I
Yep.
literally, I seen an interview with her recently where they asked her why did they call her Notorious RBG, and she said, well, it came from a rapper, his name was Notorious BIG, and they was like, do you find anything wrong with that? She said no. Right, she said no, because we both come from Brooklyn. Look, we have a lot of similarities. So she was it. She literally was it. She fought for women's rights and helped us to be able to, her fight was not done. Put it like that. She fought for women's rights. She continuously was fighting for equal pay. She continuously fought for us to be in control of our bodies. And I'm just hoping that that torch that she passed to all of us, we carry it and we wear it well, because we have a lot of fight that we have to do after her passing. So I want to, rest in peace, RBG, and we will continue to fight for women's rights. What are you guys thoughts on her and how it's going to actually affect us? Because it's going to affect, her death is going to affect us one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Elle, you want to take that first?
Oh, honestly, I didn't even know she passed away, Casey, until you told me so. So, but as Taylor said earlier, we have to have more elders to step in and pass that torch, and have someone strong and opinionated and stands for the justice of our people to step in and take over what the legacy that she's left behind. I would hate to know that passed away and the legacy falls its wayside, and then the government steps in and tries to overturn everything that she's done to help us get to help us to go forward. So I'm just hoping that legacy stays alive, and that we
Hmm.
move forward in the right direction opposed to scaling backwards.
Yeah,
Right,
I
right.
definitely agree. I actually saw the movie on the basis of sex, which was about her and everything she
Hmm.
did. And you definitely see
Mm.
a woman that doesn't take any shit. So I liked enjoying, just I enjoyed that. I enjoyed seeing that. I would definitely like to see it more so in a woman of color. I respect,
Yeah.
though, I do respect everything she's done. I'd
Absolutely.
love to see it, more women of color coming up and not being afraid to state their opinion and not coming off aggressive or
Mm.
mad or anything like that, or spicy. There's so many different things that they call women of color. So I would love to see just more women of color coming up and really like sticking together. And I think also, I know you guys said something, we're switching the conversation a little bit, but um, I think also it's important to recognize Native Americans in this,
Hmm.
because they were here first,
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
over here.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
But still,
Absolutely.
they're basically, that's another sad story. But
Yeah.
even recognizing them in some of these stories, and I would love to see some more of them out. But it's hard when life has gone the way it has, and definitely just sticking together as women and women of color, and pushing through.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome. So with that, ladies,
Absolutely.
I'm going to say a statement that RBG had put out there, in which I find it to be a very strong statement. And she stated, I ask no favor for my sex. All I ask from my brethren is to take their feet off our necks. Wasn't that's deep?
Yes.
Yep.
So we're gonna leave here
Mm-hmm.
put that into the atmosphere. Allow us women to be women, and stop looking at everything that we do as a sexual way, and look at it as awareness when it comes down to our younger ones. And when as we get older, we are more than what sexualizing present us to be. We are smart, we are strong, and we are independent. And we can be ladies, we could be tramps, we could be all that we want to be. but we have that power, and that's what we all need to stand on. As women, we can be anything that we put our minds to, and nobody, not no man, can hold us back from being who we are. So with that, guys, I want to say I thank you, and I look forward to having conversations with you guys on a regular basis, because this was so good. And to the viewers out there, thank you for joining us today, and we will see you guys same time, same next Sunday. Y'all have a great day and enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye.
Bye.